what.
Welcome to MGBC, the podcast for January 8th, 2024. Coming to you live from Mount Zion Baptist Church. We won't say the name of our studio because Sandy told me that we're not allowed to anymore, and she's the boss. So coming to you with our fearless worship leader, Miss Sandy. I'm not going to say her last name, but it's Shrey, but I can't roll my R correctly, so it's Sandy Shrey.
Just say Sandy.
I just like calling her Sandy.
Just say Sandy.
I just got calling her Sandy. Her maiden name, I can't say it right either, but it is
Ann.
Yeah, no, it's you told me.
Wait, what?
It is ANN, but it's not
It's
Ann,
on.
and so
On?
I called her Sandy Ann like the first time I saw that, and she's like, "That is not my name." And she's
Automatically.
she's a little aggressive when it comes to her name, but Sandy, welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Happy
You
New
look
Year.
excited, Emmanuel.
What's up? Happy
welcome.
New Year.
Happy New Year, sir.
Weekend
and
a day.
Joined by our friend and colleague, partner in ministry, and someone that is way more active than Pastor Russell in the community is Mr. Daryle Smith. Welcome.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Daryle, we were saying in our previous recording that we were doing that we met approximately 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and about around October, November to do Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Mount Zion High School. And the question that was posed to you before we were caught off guard was, share a bit about yourself and like how did you get involved with FCA and who is Daryle Smith?
Daryle Smith is nobody, man.
I like that.
I'm originally from New York. Always didn't realize it while I was living it, but looking back now, I could see the hand of God on my life, just keeping me away from certain people, certain things, certain activities, certain injuries that were supposed to be horrific turned out to be miracles, and just how God navigated me through that. I never thought about FCA, didn't know what FCA was or anything. I was a senior executive director with another nonprofit, and I ended up having back surgery. And so the funny thing was, it was supposed to be a 3-week recovery, and it turned into 7 months.
Oh, wow.
I ended up having back surgery, so it took me 6 months to learn how to walk again because I couldn't take pain pills because I was allergic to them. And so 6 months in, the organization just basically said we can't wait no longer. We got to let you go. And so I was just upset because I was like, man, I felt like God took my purpose. He took me what I was supposed to do. And a friend of mine that was on my board named Rob Brass worked for FCA, and he kept picking with me. He said, hey, man, I think God wants you to come to FCA. And I was like, all right, so what is FCA? And he said, well, you got to raise your money to get a check. I said, wait a minute, I gotta kill what I gotta eat. Like, nah, I pass.
Yeah.
And one particular day, I was coming from physical therapy, and he called me and asked me would I speak to a group of kids at Northgate. And I just felt like God wanted me to share my testimony of how I was trusting him even in this hard time, because I was unemployed. I was still learning how to walk. And me and God was having some serious conversations. And so as we were leaving the huddle, he says, give me your social security number. We're hiring you at FCA. So I said, I tell you what, if God raised the money, I'll do it. God didn't tell me he was going to take a $30,000 pay cut. But one of the most influential people in that city of Noonan, where I lived, held a dessert at his house and raised everything up to $1,000. And so I was like, well, it's not all raised. And I was a part of this unemployment ministry called Job Seekers in Peachtree City. And the guy was so impressed with me, he sponsored the last $1,000. And so there was no way I could tell God no after that. And so I just jumped right in. I was in Coweta County for about a year and a half. And then God called me to Clayton and Spalding County to come do ministry. And I jumped right at it because it was said to me that they needed to see representation a lot at their level of ministry. And it wasn't like that most ways. And so I heard everybody try to talk me out of it. Like, don't go to Clayton County, stay in Coweta, it'll be easier. But God's voice was so clear. He was like, go lead them to me.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, I haven't looked back, man.
And a testimony of faith. I mean, I think stepping out, raising my funds. I don't know if I'll be the pastor of Mount Zion.
Hold on now. He said it best. Kill what I got to eat.
Yeah, I like that. Pastor Chris told me back in the day when I first started doing ministry, he said one of his first jobs, like the way they would do it was like if they were going to bring you on staff, like if I brought you on staff, Sandy, as our worship leader, it'd be, okay, and this is what you make. So you need to bring this many families because they'll bring that much. You know, it's like there was like a thing there, and I would be like, whoa, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I'm glad we don't have to do that. But yeah, that's a great testimony because then, I mean, from there, so Brooklyn? Is it Brooklyn? Where we at? New York?
So I was born in a city, and I'm gonna give you landmarks so you'll know. So I was born in New Rochelle, which is where Iona College is, which is a top D1 school. Got in some, basically was a foster child. And so I grew up in a foster home in Mount Vernon. I always tell people that's where, if you know ever heard of Heavy D, that's where Heavy D and Denzel Washington is from.
You heard of one of those, right,
Yeah.
Sandy?
Yes.
Yeah.
We give her a hard time. Anything past like the late 90s, she has nothing.
And then got in some trouble, was in a lot of fights. So I got sent to the Bronx.
The Bronx.
So that's where good Yankees.
Yeah, you go.
But through all that tribulation, man, it was the define everything that I went through prepared me for FCA. Like I just wasn't called, I was prepared for it. Like because I deal with a lot of inner city. Like I tell people, even though Clayton County is not Atlanta, it's still inner city.
Yeah.
And then people don't even believe this. There are certain parts of even Spalding County that you can consider inner city. So it's kids can very well see my genuineness, but they just draw to me naturally because they know, okay, he understands where I'm coming from. And so that was the good thing about coming to Clayton was that I didn't have to change who I was, and I could go right into ministry, just jump in feet first, like in the water.
E-Man, you were you came through FCA basically, right? Like people came to your school. If it wasn't me, then it was someone. Like somehow.
I didn't really get introduced to it honestly until we went to a FCA camp. That was the very first time FCA was that I even heard about it. That's when we received the Bibles and all that. I was like, okay, this is the first. And I think we were that was sophomore year, maybe maybe junior year, depending. But that was the first time we heard about it. And after that's when I was like, oh, FCA is actually
Sandy, was FCA anywhere in Virginia? Like did it come across you ever? Like
never heard of
until you came here.
Don't feel bad. I didn't either.
I'm like, is there a southern thing or it's like nationwide?
It is actually international.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, they're international. So they're in China, they're in Germany, they're in different parts of Africa, they're in Brazil. Like we're connected to the FCA in Brazil. That's our sister. That's our sister ministry.
So, I guess because I know when we went through it was about basketball.
Yeah.
So
okay.
is it just sports or is it?
So FCA is a non-denominational sports ministry.
Okay.
And I always tell people it's like missions. So instead of going to another country to dig a well, basically what I'm doing is I'm staying in my own home town, in my where I live, and I'm doing mission work on the largest mission field, which is the schools.
Gotcha. No doubt.
Okay. And so our job, what we want to see is the world transformed through coaches and athletes. Like if someone said, what is the end product? So when you see someone like the quarterback from Houston stand up and say, I give honor to God and I'm a vessel for Christ. Like we get excited about that because that's exactly what the vision is to see that and see the world be transformed. Well, if he's a quarterback for the Texans and he's with Christ, our quarterback for Mount Zion, I could be with Christ. Yeah. Like that's the whole aspect of it. And so, through partnerships with churches is the key thing is seeing them being led to Christ in his church. A lot of times when you hear about FCA, it's us bringing the Bibles, the pizza, the camps, and us preaching to the kids. But really, our job is to lead them to Christ and lead them to the church. Yeah. That's our mission statement.
And I think as Daryle and I have worked together and a lot of things in the past, like when we speak, we literally say that. I'm like, I am the pastor of Mount Zion, but look, if you're not right around here, I don't care where you go. Right, yeah. Just go somewhere, get plugged in somewhere and get it. And so that's how Daryle is so FCA was like in my mind when I was in high school only because they gave out free biscuits on like some Fridays, And so I would go to the meetings, get like the little Burger King biscuits. I think back in the day on the baseball team, never listened to what they were talking about. Like never heard Jesus, never knew that's what we were doing. It was like free food. Right. I don't know. And so then
it's not anything new. It's like organization that dates like
well, how long has it been?
Wait, it dates me, so it's basically prehistoric.
But you said when you were in high school.
95. It was there, and I'm sure Daryle, the gentleman that started it, when was I don't know that.
So this goes back to I'm gonna tell you a cool story. So Branch Rickey is I'm gonna tell you how far this back it goes. The gentleman that brought in Jackie Robinson to the Major League Baseball, the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers, funded the first 10 years of FCA.
And so that was late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, late 60s.
Okay, wow.
And so it's
and you said the owner.
The owner.
Wow.
So there was a guy that met with him, and they talked for several hours. And basically, the guy was saying, if athletes can endorse cigarettes and cars, why can't they advertise Christ?
Christ, yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this, but the Brooklyn Dodgers owner at the time was a big believer. And so he was like, okay, what do you need? And it kind of went from there. They started with professional athletes, but then they realized, hey, we got to start doing these grassroots. So technically go down to middle school. Some FCAs do elementary school, but it's technically middle school and high school, where majority of it's done on high school and college campuses.
So we partnered with we have in the past partnered with Mount Zion High School, and we do currently, but we also did the Bab Middle School for a brief period of time. We never got to elementary schools. And I guess my biggest challenge when we worked with teenagers here at Mount Zion and there is, how do you say, I don't want to say parental involvement because that sounds like they're not involved, but parental involvement. What do you face, like some of the hardest challenges when you're out there? Because if you experience what I experienced, kids are all in. When you show them love, they're like, "Oh, I'm with that.
Do this.
Like, how do I get?" And so, but then you like, someone's got to take them to church, or someone's got to. What are some of those challenges you face?
After you develop their trust, like I think they realize their reality. I had a kid tell me this. This was at Morrow High School. He said, "Sunday ain't my church. This my church." This was on a Wednesday morning. And to the point where it changed the whole huddle. I couldn't even finish my teachings. The kids was like, yeah, this is our church. Matter of fact, can we do this tomorrow afternoon? Like, so I think for a lot of them, they realize their limitations outside. If they have able means to get to a church, because in some schools, we've had kids catch the bus all the way from North Clayton High School and go all the way to Atlanta. So it's just depending on their circumstance.
Right.
But majority of them, it's hard for them to plug into a church because, like, it's not their family dynamic. Mm-hmm. And so because we're not ministering to the parents, and I've even had some parents say, do you got FCA for parents? Mm-hmm. I was like, it's called the church. Yeah. It's called the church. So what are we talking about? But the hardest thing is getting those kids. That's why we got to constantly encourage them to, like, that's why I always try, like, once I see the church is committed to the school, mm-hmm. I remove myself because I never want to be the face of FCA. It should always be the church. And even if I come around, hey, have you gone to church, Mr. Darryl? I'm trying to get there. I'm working with Pastor to get there. Mm-hmm. Because again, my job is not my ministry is not pastoral. I'm a missionary. I'm like Mother Teresa. My job is just to love on you and stir you up the love of Christ so that you get to the church. But I think that is the number one challenge, I think, for a lot of churches is getting them from that school into, that's where the coach becomes important. Because if the coach says we going to church,
you going,
and we have to be careful because we don't want the coach to get fired.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We don't want him to get fired, so we got to protect the coach. But it's if coach show up, they showing up.
Yeah.
Because the parents gonna be like, well, if they going with coach,
it's safe. Right.
Yeah.
And I think I can say from pictures and from being around that the teams where the coaches are bought in, and not even just the head coach, because like Coach Floyd at Jonesboro is all the way in, Coach Binyard is all the way in. But what I see the difference in the locations and other things I see is Coach Floyd, I feel like that staff is in. Assistant coaches, trainers, they're on it. I feel like the other dynamic is a little different. And that's a process, you're trying to work that. But I think that when a kid sees a coach go to church and not just say be at church, but like, I'm at church, will you come with me? It's just like that mentorship starts beginning to happen, and then that relationship begins to happen. And like we always try to live around here, kids don't care if I'm white, black, old, young, whatever. If I love and care about them, then that's all they care about. Yeah. And it gets proved over and over and over. So what do you have on your little notepad over there? Anything?
I had a question, but
you have a question? Go ahead, man. I was going to put it on the spot.
Wow. No, you kind of touched on it a little bit. You said you're more not pastoral, more so a missionary. So I guess in Georgia, is there like, because some pastors have a home church. Would you have a home high school or a home church?
He does have.
I have a home church. I actually go to Trinity Church, which is in Sharpsburg, Georgia, which is in Noonan, Georgia. It's also a private school. People know it more as a private school than they do as a church.
Trinity Christian?
Trinity Christian.
We probably played Creekside.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I go to church under Pastor Mark Anthony, and I have a great pastor because he understands the importance of missions. So he understands if I'm there this Sunday, but not next Sunday, because I may come to a church, to visit a pastor or things of that nature. But I love it because he tells stories, and that's really, I love the way he tells stories and connects the gospel or the letters of the gospel. I just love it, and then it reminds me I need to tell stories.
That's the hardest thing, though, isn't it? As like a pastor, you talk. I told her that like a couple weeks ago. I need to do more things because I need more stories. Like I need to travel. I need to go hang out with this because I need to have. That's what makes
the experience.
I agree with that.
To be able to tell the story.
Yeah. You got to have the experience to be able to tell it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't have a home high school because
I
have so many.
I get that.
The funny part is, when I go to Griffin, they be like,
because I know it's it's got to be like why you go to them and
I learned beforehand. Like the first time that I really started, it was Riverdale versus Jonesboro.
I bet, yeah.
And I was like, which side am I going to sit on?
I can't pick.
So I stood behind the gate of the field goal.
Yeah.
On
the
the
middle.
track and just stood there. And just stood there. I just stood behind it because I knew both teams was going to come on that side.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, you know, I told the guys, I said, I'm never doing this again. And I tell them, I'm like, I can't come to your games because it's just rough.
Yeah.
And so I always tell Griffin the same thing. Griffin like, yeah, because you're always at Jonesboro.
Can't win.
I'm over here 2 days a week. I'm at Jonesboro 1 day a week. What'd that tell you?
Yeah.
But they watching.
Yeah.
And I think their level, when they see your level of, I think it all goes back to, does he really care?
Yeah.
You know, does he care more about this school than he does my school? And so, and I'm sure if I had, but this is because I'm on Instagram and I have a lot of Griffin guys follow me on Instagram more than I probably have other ones. But Jonesboro may not react to that because they've known me longer. Right. So they like, oh, he's over there, but we know whenever we know need him, he'll be here.
Gotcha.
So like today was my first day doing a huddle with the boys basketball team at Jonesboro, and they was like, we can count on you. And I was like, you can count on me? Like, yeah, it's not gonna be too long before you show up at our school. We know we can count on you. So to his point, to Pastor Russell's point, as long as they know that you care and you spend that time with them, and you're showing, this is what I mean this wholeheartedly. I need to show them how much I love them before I say one scripture to them.
Yeah. That's great.
Because a lot of people are quoting scripture to them. Their grandmamas, their aunties, their uncles, the pastor, the deacon, the usher. And they're probably, and some of those people are probably mean. We don't want to talk about that.
Right.
They probably mean. Their approach is mean. They don't mean to be mean.
So when they hear the scriptures, they take it with that negative connotation. Yeah.
And so I think when they see, and I constantly tell them, I love you. And I explain to them agape. I'm not talking about a romantic love. That's not the only type of love. There's something called agape, unconditional love. I love you just because of who you are. And when they hear that, that's when you could see the walls let down.
Yeah.
Well, the scripture says, like, the harvest is plentiful, pray for more workers, right?
Yes.
Where do you stand? Like, where does that, like, because that's what I feel like for me. If I could be at Mount Zion High School 4 to 5 days a week, yeah, there'd be some gospel moving, like, stuff happening. But me popping in once or twice a week, it's hard. Like, it's real hard.
I never understood that scripture till I came to FCA. like I wish all the churches would understand, come out from behind the walls and volunteer with FCA. Like, I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to open up the door and put my foot in the door so that you can walk in and love on these kids.
Yeah.
And the churches that get it, like, they thrive. Like, Path Church is just like Mount Zion. They're baptizing kids. Kids are catching the bus or finding rides all the way to Atlanta to get discipled and baptized. We actually got a kid now that we started discipling when he was a junior, and when he was a senior, he got baptized. He's now the assistant coach back at North Clayton. So guess what they see? Now they have a Christian coach.
Well, that it does work.
You know, and I'm a kid, and he'll tell you, FCA saved my life because I was heading down this way. The gangs had me. And so we have to, and I think that's what we have to do, is just continue to come from behind the walls. That's why I try not to put myself out there as much, because I want the churches to be seen. I want the pastors to be seen. I want to be the person. And like I tell the pastor, I'm not saying you have to do it, but I know you got athletes in your church that love Jesus and would love to do this ministry. You spending about 15, 30 minutes tops one day, and then 9 times out of 10 you're gonna want to go to a game to support them. So you're looking at 2 days a week that you're doing ministry as an extension of your church. And then when they ask, well, because they're gonna ask, where you go to church? Now you lead them back.
Yeah. Full circle. And the kids will be here tomorrow. Like if I could bust them all over here. And so yeah, they're in. They're in. And so I've seen FCA work. I was telling them, Daryle, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was like, I'm done with Mount Zion High School. We tried to have a big Thanksgiving bash with them, invited all these people and everything, and like no one showed up. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like FCA, it ain't doing this, it ain't doing that, and I was in my feelings. The next week, God sent 2 people from FCA from 2020 and came to church and said, I remembered you and needed to come and hear, whatever. So God brought them back 3 years later. Wow. And I was like, whoa. It was literally the same week I said, I'm done with this. God brought them both, and it was like, okay, God, I hear you. One of those kids actually is going to join the church, and he started a new job here at church and all that kind of thing. So just when you for me, I was like, right when I was ready to say, we got to mix it up. Maybe there's something different. God put someone there. So that was kind of cool. Just recently happened.
Yeah, sweet.
God will do that. Trust me. When I'm raising money, I have those. Man, I've been preaching to this coach, and he is still cussing them out down. or man, I'm pouring into it, but the kids are still cussing during the game.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, man, I'm just wasting my time. And then I'll get a text or an inbox from a former athlete saying, hey, Mr. Daryle, I remember this scripture that you gave me, or Mr. Daryle, I remember you always coming to speak to us. And it just kind of puts it back in perspective. I think we have to understand as servants of Christ that we're human. And we have to understand, at least for me, I have to understand that when Jesus talks about agriculture, you got to be a patient farmer.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Because the seed has to die before the roots even take hold. We don't know how long the seed has to die in some of these people, like those 2 that came. The roots started growing, and they said, I need to be watered. Where can I get water? Mount Zion.
They remembered.
But the seed had to die in them. And so I think a lot of times that's what I have to remind myself is like the seed hasn't died yet, Daryle. Like, hold on. And because I was like, man, I can't keep doing all of this. I'm actually taking a sabbatical this year because I want God to rejuvenate and renew me. My word this year is renew. I want to be renewed back to what I was back 7 years ago because of those same struggles. And I think it's human. It's good to be honest and we talk about the deity of Christ, but we don't talk about the humanity of Christ sometimes. Christ was tired. That's why he got rid of some folks and went to himself and was there and then went to sleep and woke up and like, all right, God. Like, I think sometimes in this work we have to renew ourselves because, again, I'm looking for. I got 2 kids that'll probably. I got one guy that's going into the NFL draft. He'll never talk about FCA, and I'll be like, dang, I remember. But and then again, Daryle, that ain't why you did it,
right?
And I have to remember. I'm just to point them to Christ. I'm not like they have their hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
So I have to encourage myself: am I doing the best, leading them to Christ? And as long as I'm doing that, then everything will be fine. But I get encouraged. I be having them same talks, Pastor. Like, man, like
this is it.
Hey, the post office high.
And I was caught up on that language thing for a minute there too, and like, man, how much do we have to talk about? Like, how do you talk to each other? And man, it's like I'm just thankful now that when they do say whatever, they look at me and go like, "Oh, my bad." Like before they weren't even doing that. Before they weren't even doing that, and so I'll walk down the high school hallways and they'll catch me out of the corner of their eye and just, "Oh, my bad, Pastor, my bad." Or someone will hear someone talking and be like, "The pastor's over here." So it's funny. I like it, and they respect it.
I think you have a unique dynamic than most of my volunteers. I think the only other church is in Forest Park that can walk in that school and not know who I am, but know FCA is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is a unique dynamic because that's what FCA wants.
Yeah.
That's all we want is that kid. Because again, you never know when they become that adult. When they can become that adult,
that's
how
right.
they're going to find a way to Pastor Russell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so we're blessed. We have, and just recently we had 2 young ladies that wanted to get involved, and we connected them with flag football and volleyball, and so we have even more arms into that. So yeah, it's just a really cool thing that God is doing in and amongst us. I'm always preaching and telling everybody, the number one thing people say to me, hey, how are you doing, is I'm tired. Like you just said, Jesus was tired. And so I said, look, Jesus is not making you tired. Like it's whatever you're putting on you to feel like you have to keep doing or keep maintaining. Jesus said his yoke is light and like his burden is easy. But like, so if we ever feel like that, then what are we putting on ourselves? And I'm talking, and I always basically say that's me I'm talking to, right? Because I'm wearing myself out. And so I love our relationship with FCA. I do get frustrated with it just because as any pastor or missionary, you want your words to produce fruit and people to be like flocking to what you know is good and life-changing. Yeah. And when they don't, you're like, man, what, you're missing it. But that is gospel. That's the gospel. That's preaching. That's what it's been since Paul and Peter and guys were out there. Mike used to say, be careful what you ask for, because like Peter preached that day and 3,000 people came. He was like, be careful, because that's 3,000 more problems coming your way. So just be grateful you got the little 100 you got and rock with it.
Yeah.
And so,
definitely.
You know what I love too is when I get the news that they receive Christ.
Yeah.
But that don't mean they coming to church.
No.
And so I have to just celebrate that.
The little wins.
The little wins, because at least if something happened to, God forbid, I know where they could. Because we had a pastor that was ministering at another high school, and there was a senior day, and one of the kids that we were ministering to got killed. And I cried because I didn't know if he ever had a chance to receive Christ. And so my supervisor was calming me down because I was like, I really love this kid. And the pastor called me, and the pastor said, Daryle, all I can tell you is he had an opportunity to receive Christ. Know that it was offered 2 times. And that was kind of my relief. Because I think, again, in Clayton County, we have to be honest. I watch the news to make sure none of my kids are on there.
Yeah,
that's real.
Like if something bad happens. And so we are really doing serious mission work. Like, don't think because we're not in Ecuador that we're not dealing with something serious. We're dealing with kids that we can get a phone call or a text or an email that this kid has passed away. And not only now, the only bright spot of that is whoever's connected to that kid wants us now, because they realize their mortality. So it then becomes Daryle. Like how can, because we had a young lady pass away at an athlete that passed away at a local high school this past year, and it brought the whole team. And then the football team, they all knew her. And how do I get to heaven?
No doubt.
Now, could you imagine if FCA wasn't there? That's why I tell people, like, to have Pastor Russell and them in the schools is imperative, because when these things happen, you have someone there to answer that kid. But imagine if they went through that just on their own, and no one, they didn't know. They'll go to Pastor Russell maybe quicker they'll go to their own pastor.
Yeah, they will. Yeah. They will. I'm like I'm out here, like I'm not in their circle, so they can tell me whatever. Yeah. But so yeah. Definitely. Some of the relationships I have with those kids are awesome. Like they really do love me and respect me, and I think it's really cool. I feel like an obligation like when my heart doesn't want to do it.
It's like, what about?
Like I have, you know what I mean? Like when my Russell doesn't want to do it, like that. I remember those kids. So, but what do you think? Any thoughts over there, Miss Sandy? I feel like you're just hanging out with us today. I feel like just hanging out,
listening ear.
No, I'm just listening because I mean, honestly, all of this is everything you said is pretty encouraging to me because I feel like before even I'm coming to Mount Zion, I knew nothing of FCA. This is the first time I've ever heard of any kind of organization helping student athletes and inside high schools because when I was in high school, I never heard about it. Like, I wish I did, but I didn't. And it's really encouraging to know that there's, like, this out there for, like, the youth. And, like, for me, personally, I think I live in I would say I'm in, like, my own bubble. Because, like, listening to you speak about all of these things going on in the community and high school and all these kids' lives, it's like, whenever my role in church, I'm usually just like worship and like I have never stepped into like the ministry with like youth or ever involved in like the youth ministry or anything besides like just worship ministry. And so like this is me listening and just taking it all in. So that's why I'm pretty quiet. But it's like I'm living in a bubble almost.
I got to get y'all to come. I'll send the dates. You got to, especially she got to come. She's got to see this. Over 1,500 football players that have never worshiped before, especially together. I'm talking about different backgrounds. I'm talking about they could be from Gwinnett County as low as East Coweta High School, right? Could be as inner city as Atlanta. 1,500 boys worshiping. And they've never worshiped before. And by the second night, they got their phones with their lights out, waving back and forth, singing "How Great Is Our God."
Yeah, no doubt.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Like, but the first night, total chaos. Because they either don't know what worship is, or that's not how I worship. That's I don't know that. But they can fulfill the sincerity, and it's like when they get together, and here's it, pure chaos. They just played a game, and as soon as they say, "All right, it's time to wheel in," the word is about to come. We about to worship. They lock in. You can see them grabbing their phones, hugging each other like this, rocking back and forth. It is one of the greatest things that you will ever see.
I think that when we used to go to Daytona Beach for youth camp, when I first started being the youth pastor, I mean, there were like 3,500, 4,000 students in there. And with the first night, you're right, everyone's like, it's too cool. Like, I'm not doing Ramos, doing all that stuff. By the fourth night, they're like hugging, crying with each other, like just work. Definitely, They just release. And I know for a fact that those years motivate me in these years because I remember that stuff and I remember those things happening. And, I love to see when it breaks down like that and they like are just worshiping and doing it. Yeah, and then when you come back from that, I mean, when teams come back from that, you're better. I don't care if you ever win another football game, you're just a better team.
Yeah,
definitely agree.
It just builds that camaraderie.
I can just attest just from seeing that although we were a Christian school and we went to FCA, we rode on the bus with who was it? Eagles Landing High School. Christian school team riding with I think they were AA at the time. At the time, we were basically not on the same play level at all. Definitely not on the same character level at all. So our coach obviously said, "Hey, you're going on the bus with different people. Don't embarrass me." Well, no. You know the Christian school talk. You represent your family, most importantly, God. That talk.
The one I used to give you before when we go.
Before you go on a trip like with your church. You represent your family, represent God. That's don't embarrass me in a nutshell. But you can literally see what he said. The worshiping changing by night 2. It's like chaos going crazy. It's like you got people cussing you out. Christian school team again cussing you out on the basketball court. It's like, wait a minute. I thought we were at FCA. Night 2, game 2. It's no longer there. It's completely like, I don't think it's like washed from the system, but I think they understand the importance of the respect. Okay, this is different. And then same in worship, it's like go from, like you said, playing a game to complete calm. That's awesome. So I love that.
I want you to know the worship leader is an 18-year-old Caucasian kid.
Nice.
Leading 1,500 football players. Some of these guys are 4 and 5 star talent.
Headed to the best schools.
Heading to the D1 schools, probably projected to go NFL round 1. And he can pull them in with an acoustic guitar and lead them to worship.
That's awesome.
And I say that to you to be encouraged is that when they get here, you are doing something so special in their lives because a lot of them just don't know. You know, they know to read the Bible, but they don't know how to get their mind in tune to where the Spirit can talk back to them. I think a lot of kids know to read the Bible, but a lot of them don't have that time where how do I wind down and become one with God so that He speaks to me through the Bible, which is through worship. And so just know that however God uses you, let Him keep using you, because I was one of the doubters, like, ain't no way this finna work. Now, ain't no way. Now with these 1,500, we got. I'm not gonna name no high school, but we got some. We got some. We got some. And then, like I said, you see them running to the stage, rocking back and forth in front of them like it's a Justin Bieber concert, like literally, and they're worshiping.
Yeah, we've been to camp before, and I've seen David Crowder play a banjo and have like all of what you're describing, rocking out to a banjo. And so it's like once you let that guard down and you can just be, that's what it is. But
I'm safe.
But the whole time, man, they're walking them hallways and they're doing all that stuff. Their guards up. They're like not trying to look weak, and so that's so much of the challenge. Like when I'm in that locker room and just spitting the scripture to them, they are so in it. Like they would do anything right then for God, and they'll walk right out of there and just back into the chaos, back into the language, back into the everything. And you're like, man, I don't. But like you said, one day that kid though is going to be the adult that gets to make the decision. Like I remember
I remember
back when in high school. This guy named Russell.
I can't even imagine the churches that did FCA of the adults that come back looking for the pastor that's no longer there.
Oh yeah.
That's what hurts my heart is that pastor didn't get to see it, but also did that kid stay? You know what I'm saying? And so that's why it's so good for all ministries to get involved with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, because it's not about sports. We're just using sports because they're the most influential people on the campus. But as far as the church, everybody should be looking to be involved, because when they come back, they need to be looking for someone familiar that can disciple them, that can get them to understand like filthy language is not something that's Christ-like. You know, controlling your temper is a fruit of the Spirit. So they can be discipled in those type of ways.
A lot of the people that follow our podcast and follow our church online, Daryle, are obviously like-minded individuals that want to partner and do things. If they were listening to this and want to support you in what you do, how does that happen? Like, how do you get those supporters? Like, can I support you? Like, can anyone support you?
What type of support are we talking about? Ministry or
financial? I mean, I can support you through prayer, obviously. How do we make sure you don't have to worry about that last $1,000?
Contact Russell. He has my information. But basically, I do always look for financial supporters. I look for monthly supporters that can give to me, because again, this is my full-time job, even though sometimes people don't think it's a job. It's my full-time. It's a full-time job, and I'm at the beck and call of coaches and athletes. So in the afternoons and evenings, I'm doing ministry. In the mornings, I'm trying to raise funds, and I'm doing Bible studies with coaches. So my day is full, and then I'm also planning how to bring on staff and more volunteers to do the ministry, because again, the harvest is great, but the labor is few. And so if God is putting it on your heart to give to this ministry, know that it's tax deductible. We are 5-star on Navigator for those that are into those type of ratings. And so we were one of the top nonprofits to give to. We are a nonprofit, and we're changing for the kingdom. Your money is not going to Daryle Smith. It's going to kingdom work, and it's going so that lives will be transformed. Not only now, but years down the line. And like I tell coaches, I tell donors the same thing. You're not just changing the life of an athlete, you're changing the soul and the generation. Because if we can get them to receive Christ, then they become the foundation of their generations to come of following Christ. So we're changing generations, not just an athlete.
Yeah. So so other than, what if I am a person that's out there listening and I'm like, man, God, you may be calling me to, like, I'm an athlete. I like sports. I want to do that. I want to do it. I want to be what Daryle does. How do you even go down that journey?
My email address is darylesmith@fca.org. Email me and we can talk. We'll go to lunch on me, and we'll talk about what. And it's the best lunch in the world. It's God's lunch. But we'll go to lunch and we'll talk. And then from there, we'll see how God is leading the both of us to have you lead ministry. And we'll see where the perfect fit is. Sometimes it could be with a team. Sometimes it could be with a coach. So if you feel like you love sports and you love Jesus, please contact me. Absolutely. Because I can see God doing mighty things through collaborations like that.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you. What else you guys got? Anything else going on in your world? It don't have to all be about Daryle. Like, what's happening with you guys, bro? Like, just hanging out. New Year, man. Anything good?
My birthday's on the 11th.
Okay,
that's a good thing. Shout out to that. 26.
So how do y'all feel about people on their birthdays shooting out their Cash App? How's that rub you guys?
I don't like Cash App, so.
Well, I'm just saying in general. Venmo, whatever.
It's funny because you ain't getting none from me. No, I mean, happy birthday. You'll get a happy birthday. You ain't getting a dime from me, though. I got to work for my birthday gift. You got to work for your birthday gift.
You just made it harder for me to raise money.
So sorry.
No. We said for birthday, not for ministry, bro.
But that's how people act. They ain't sending his link for. I ain't sending him nothing.
No. But no, my birthday's coming up. Other than that,
yeah. So how are we now? You're getting up there, bro. You're almost getting closer to me every year.
I'll be 26.
See, getting up there, yeah. Getting closer to me every year.
Yeah, I'll be 26 on Thursday.
Beautiful.
That's good.
Living that blessed life.
Then January 15th.
Just came back from serving on a youth retreat. The Heart of a Servant. Yeah. How was that?
Cold.
Yeah,
it was cold, but it was fun. It was a good time. Definitely, if you got like he said, get a chance to work. I know.
What do you get out of it, E-Man?
Out of working with youth?
Yeah.
I hate to say it keeps you young, but that's what I
always say.
I don't agree. But I mean, honestly, I get it. It's fun seeing a young mind transform. Although it is very taxing and can be very taxing. Yeah. I think once you finally see, oh, he gets it. I think that's one of those. Yes, I'm doing something right.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's what I get out of it the most. Yeah. And at the same time, often I see myself in a lot of the youth that at least that I talk to. Mm-hmm. I mean, I look like most of them. Mm-hmm. I live in most of their neighborhoods. I've been in a lot of situations they've been in. So, and I'm blessed enough to have gone to a Christian school. I mean, everybody hears about Christian school, but I've been around. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
all I heard about Christian schools is they know how to hide what they do.
Exactly.
Better.
Well, if you think about it, everybody that gets expelled from a public school, they can go to a Christian school. No, in all honesty, that's the truth. But that was brought to my knowledge. To actually, Kim brought it to my knowledge. It was like, you got a good point. Yeah. But I enjoy seeing a young mind transform. And
I was encouraged this weekend. Kim came back. It was just one male volunteer going to start, and then you were going to help. And my wife said, "Who is the other person going to help?" And I said, I think Elijah thinks he's the other adult. I think he thinks he's And so I told Kim that. She's like, dude, I think honestly he did feel that way, and he did this, and this. So I was super proud of him because he's 15. He's in that stage where you can go knucklehead or get it. You know what I mean? So we were worried for a minute, which way are you going to go? proven me wrong, and so I'm super proud of that. And it's people like you, though. I'm saying, like, he's around you, he's around D, he's around men that are like love Jesus and like serve and do, and so all of those things.
Definitely.
So keep on keeping on, bro. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Anytime.
Sandy, New Year. New you.
New Year, same me.
Same me. I love that.
Not much in my world.
Not much in your world?
Not really, no.
Good. You're simple this year so far.
That's what I'm trying to be.
8 days in, no stresses, no new stress.
No.
That's a good thing.
We just celebrated 1 year anniversary with Sandy as our worship leader.
Oh,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. 1
year. I know, right? No,
Yeah,
I feel like it's been longer.
Oh.
Well, it has been longer, but she was just been like the official worship leader for 1 year.
You're right.
With a title, like official
title.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, so
I was
awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean,
nice.
we've added people to the worship team since
did,
you've been
yes.
there. I think the worship is like good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm down with all of it.
I
God
agree.
is doing cool things amongst us. Sandy's creative talents come out in our videos and in our graphics, and she's working her way into a big
permanent
part
role.
of Mount Zion.
She's working her way to a permanent.
Sounds like a multimedia pastor.
Hey, that's what she sounds like to me too. I can't give her the pastor role because we're Southern Baptist, but she sounds like a multimedia ministry leader.
Is that what they call it these days?
Nice.
So yes, all good. Mount Zion is we're going through I think we're like in that season where we're going in a good direction, and we're just trying to make sure all of our ducks in a row. So when Jesus brings that harvest, we're ready because he's doing really cool things and bringing those kids back from FCA, just bringing people from local assisted living homes, Daryle, that they called randomly and said, hey, can we want to come to church? And we had a church member with a big heart went and picked them up. One of those young ladies joined church. And I was walking through the pews this Sunday, and she was just sitting there. And so I sat down with her, and she's probably in her mid 60s, late 60s, and we just started talking. And it turns out that her and her husband were missionaries in Thailand for over 20 years.
Wow.
And he passed away 2 years ago. And so, like, when she started telling me, the tears are welling up in her eyes, and I was like, whoa, God, this is like a thing. Because like 3 weeks ago, when they called and said, can you come get me? My first answer was, no, how can we come get you? We don't have people to do that. Like, and then I offered it, and people did it. And so it's just God doing those kind of things. And you keep seeing that, and it's like, okay, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it, and I can't do it because I'll quit. But God is in it and doing it, and so it's cool.
Definitely.
And it's people like you and Sandy at times that inspire me.
He's being modest. It's pastors like him.
No, definitely. I agree. He is being modest.
If you,
He is the look, I call him the 5-star pastor.
that's a fact. He does come
like let's not look, before we get off this podcast, let's not be lighted or deceived that there need to be more pastors like Pastor Russell.
Agreed. I'll
if
test.
Thank you. And I told John when I preached on Sunday, anytime you see me doing anything good, just know it's Jesus. Because this guy is everything not. And when I'm in my flesh, I'm bad. But you're right, Daryle. I preach that, man. And I preach that God will exalt you to a place where you'll look around and go, I am nothing, but look what he's letting me do. And that's what he's doing through FCA and Mount Zion and Jonesboro and Griffin and all these places I see you at. God is exalting you to places where these kids think you're somebody. And when you walked in, I said, who's Daryle Smith? And you said, man, Daryle Smith is nobody.
Wow.
But you're a servant of the king.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you everything.
Yeah.
And that's it, man. And so we appreciate your time.
Definitely.
I know you're super busy, dude. Thank you.
No, I'm glad to be here. It's my first podcast.
Hey.
Gotta keep that going. We gotta add on to that.
I'm gonna have to start putting some requirements on these other volunteers. If you got a church podcast, I gotta be on it. No, I'm just kidding.
Get me on there. Get me on there. Man, we just try to use what little talents we have to get Jesus out there in every method possible. And so there are people that like to listen to podcasts, and we like to talk. So we figured, why not?
Well, because of pastors like Russell's, don't believe the lie that prayers is not in schools.
Oh yeah,
because it is.
Fact.
Yeah.
It is, especially at Mount Zion.
Yeah.
So if they say prayers ain't at schools, exempt Mount Zion. Matter of fact, just exempt majority of Clayton
and
County,
Spalding, for sure.
Spalding County for that. But it's because of pastors like Pastor Russell, man, that get it, and he has a heart, and he's real. And I think that's what people love, is when you can be real, relatable,
Yeah, thank you.
and relevant.
Yeah,
because you're
appreciate it.
relevant.
Yeah, like
as well.
Eman said, I work with teenagers because it does keep you young. How would I know how to say some of the words I know, and different things I throw out from the pulpit, and people are like, "How did you know that?" What was the word a few weeks back? It was someone after church.
Oh, I know you. What did T.I. son say?
I forget what it was, but anyway, some older member
on business.
Yeah, standing on business. Someone came up to me afterwards and said, "Okay, you got to tell me what does that mean? Like, what do we?
You got to explain that one."
I was like, "No, you're just being like for real. Like I'm about what." And they were like, "Oh, I get it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just that thing that goes around TikTok. I don't know."
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, Daryl. Try to stay relevant, bro. That's super hard. The methods always change, but the message never does. That's what me and Chris always said, and I think FCA does a very good job of that because I've been to camps, I've been to breakfasts, I've been to all these things, and all you're going to hear everywhere you go is the gospel. Yeah. Gospel got maybe a different way, but you're getting the gospel as the answer, and I'm thankful that you're one of those vessels that we get that from.
Oh man, it's been an honor. It is a pleasure to know you and to labor alongside you, and I believe one day when it's all said and done, we're going to be in heaven and it's going to be 100,000 people coming and they're going to be like, "Thank you, Russell. Thank you." They're going to be in heaven. I don't know if they coming east, north gate or what, but they're going to be like, "Thank you."
Hey, name ain't claiming. I'm down with it.
We're going to be like, "Yo," I was like, "Man, you was preaching like that in my And then you're going to see 1,000 of them come. Yeah. And it's going to be, "Hey, Russell, how's it going?" And Russell's going to acknowledge him. Yeah. And then the 100,000 is going to say, the reason why we're saying thank you is for the 1,000 that you touched because they changed us.
Wow. Yeah. Powerful, dude. And it can happen. That's a fact. It can happen with one person. So it might be you. You may be that spark that someone needs to hear the gospel. And so if it's you, don't hold it in. Let it all out. We learned this Sunday. I wrote down that scripture again, that part of that song again, because I just really liked it. I've been filled to be emptied again. The seed that I have received, I will sow. I just thought I don't know why I've never paid attention to that word before, but that is like, that's it. That's like deep. We've been filled to be emptied, and God's gonna empty me again to where I'm like, why am I doing FCA? And then immediately, He's gonna fill me again. Yeah. So He keeps showing up, doing His thing. So God is good. For sure. So like, subscribe, share, all those good things. Go at Daryle Smith. What's your Twitter handle? It's at
it's at Daryle Daryle Smith. So that's me at Twitter. Same thing on Instagram.
You changed up the theologian one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, so Daryl's got all that. And you can follow all the stuff he does if you're thinking about being a supporter and want to see the work in action. Look, it's not just a bunch of talk. Like, it's every day grinding it in the streets, in the schools, and it's making a huge impact. So appreciate you, D. Smith. Thank you.
For coming.
Thank y'all for having me. This was pretty cool, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Maybe want to show up next week. Come on. Hey, listen, got a nice couch and everything. Bro. Good drinking water.
You're staying moderate in here. It's all good. Producer lady Starling, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Came in with a little bit of an edge on her tonight, but it's all good. She had no problem, she said, but all good. Issues. She's good. Appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe if you want to visit 1045 Sunday mornings. Until then, stay prayed up.